Hey everybody, welcome back to MLSsoccer.com Playoff Central presented by Samsung Galaxy. Greg Lawless alongside Simon Borg and Corey Gibbs, and another dramatic night in the MLS Cup playoffs. This time in the Western Conference. The second leg of the Western Conference semifinals are now done. We just sat through what we thought was going to end up being a little bit of a snoozer in the second half, but it turned out to be very, very exciting and dramatic in the end as Seattle got 2 goals late. But it wasn't enough. They fell 3-2 to the Portland Timbers at Geldwen Field, and it was a great game in that in the beginning, in the first half, this was all Portland. And even into the second half, it was all Portland. You look at all the goals, the pressure was incredible that was coming from the Portland Timbers. Corey, this pressure, you talked about it before the game a little bit, about how they come flying out at you, especially with the energy from the crowd.
Yeah, I mean, that was the biggest thing starting off this game that Seattle had to do. They had to weather the storm. The first 15 to 20 minutes, they had to weather the storm, and they didn't do that. We saw early on in this match, 2 minutes in, Rodney Wallace had a chance on goal. Right away, that gives the team, that gives Rodney Wallace, that gives Valeri, and everybody behind them that confidence to know what, and go out there and say, you know what, we're going to go out there and take this match.
But Corey, I think the turning point was that penalty kick.
For sure.
What is Jimmy Traore thinking, extending his arm? Because Seattle, you talked about weathering the storm, they kind of held them back a little. Yeah, they had a bunch of shots, but they held them back until that penalty kick. Then your heads go down a little. And Portland, they didn't stop. They were relentless.
Yeah, but Simon, before that PK, they had many chances to score.
They did.
Many
but
chances.
Again, Seattle held their own. They held their ground. But this is inexcusable. Yeah, right. Inexcusable. You have 2 defenders behind you. The guy is not really going at goal yet. He's still far off. It's just that really hamstrung, left Portland hamstrung.
And from a player who's been and played many games at the highest level, it's
inexcusable. It's good that you bring that up, actually, because experience was something that was important in this. But the influential players in this one, particularly for Portland, were not necessarily the big name guys. They weren't necessarily the Diego Valeri, although he did get a goal, right? It was really, though, for you, Simon, your most influential player was Will Johnson in this one.
Yeah, absolutely. I think he set the tone for the pace at which they were playing and pressurizing Seattle. Usually I'm used to seeing teams spend 20 minutes, a half an hour pressuring teams and then lay off a little bit, take the foot off the pedal. Portland did not, and that continued into the second half. That goal, 3-0, just minutes into the second half, and they just kept pouring it on, which really killed Seattle's spirit for a moment there until they made subs.
I think mine came from an attacking player. I think Rodney Wallace tonight was just over the top. He just played exceptionally well. He created two of the goals that happened tonight in terms of assists, and he just took Yedlin on all night. The biggest thing for me is that against Yedlin, he made Yedlin defend him. It wasn't the other way around where Yedlin was going to join the attack until it was late in the game. He made Yedlin defend him the whole game, where Yedlin had to sit back more defensive and created problems all night.
Well, the celebrations going on out at Geldwen Field. They are handing out the wood slabs to the guys who scored the goals. Of course, Will Johnson with the penalty kick in the 29th minute, Diego Valeri in the 44th minute, and Futty Danso in the 47th. In the end, DeAndre Yedlin pulls one back, 73rd minute. Eddie Johnson in the 75th minute to get it even a little bit closer, but still they go down 5-3. At the start of this game, we talked in the pregame show a little bit about what the formation was going to be, what the lineup would be for the Seattle Sounders. I don't think any of us in the back of our mind was thinking Shao Reed Joseph would be in the starting 11. Let's think a little bit about Ziggy Schmidt's lineup decision. Simon, what was he thinking? I mean, we heard on the broadcast Arlo White saying something like trying to throw them for a loop, a little bit of surprise or something like that, but it didn't happen.
It didn't happen. Last time Shao Reed Joseph, I think, played it forward was at St. John's when he was in college.
He did some time he did some time for New England at forward as well.
Last 10 minutes of games.
He had a couple of games when they were really hurting.
This is a disastrous move to me by Ziggy Schmidt because, first off, you didn't play Dempsey at his position that I've been arguing all week. He has to play forward, and he didn't. And you didn't have Mauro Rosales in the game. You're chasing the game. You need to have a little bit of possession. You should have known what kind of game is coming at you, that they're going to come at you. You need to kind of control the pace of the game a little bit. You only do that by having a guy like Rosales, pulling the strings a little bit, settling the ball. And they didn't have the right guys on the field. The Shao Reed Joseph move, think we're going to be talking about that for a while.
Well, Rosales did come in and change the game, and it was necessary because actually, if you think about it, early in the game, especially that pressure is coming, Seattle just kept giving the ball away every single time in the midfield. And Corey, was this from the pressure, or was it from the pressure from Portland, or was just Seattle unable to just connect the ball? Did they not have the right guys in there?
Greg, it was clearly from the organized pressure of the Portland side.
Yep.
They sat with a back four. Don Zornkow did exceptionally well in terms of not letting Eddie Johnson get behind them that they've done in the past. But not only that, with Chara and Will Johnson sitting in the middle in front of those back four, intercepting everything that went through. It frustrated Seattle all night. I don't even think Eddie Johnson or Clinton Dempsey touched the ball more than 10 times in the first half. I mean, they just intercepted everything. Once they got it, they countered with speed, and I think that was the biggest thing for the Portland Timbers offense.
And they had numbers forward immediately.
Exactly.
We talked about it. 4 or 5 guys racing at this Seattle back line, and Seattle didn't seem prepared for that. They were caught off guard, guys up ahead. They should have known and anticipated how Portland plays their game.
What made it so difficult? What made it so difficult for Seattle in terms of the counterattack and the way they approached this attack? It was the interaction of the play. It's not just that they counter. They only counter with 4 players, but the way that Rodney Wallace moves, Ryan Johnson moves up front, Valeri with his creativity, and Nagbe on the right-hand side. They interchange all over the place, and not only the interchange, it's about the speed of play that they go. It's too hard for the Seattle defense to track them. Yeah, it was way too much.
I also think that we should give some credit to the outside backs for Portland in this one in particular. Always looking for that overlap. And that was one thing, there was so much space out there on the switch. If the ball came into Chara or Valeri, there was an overlapping defender. There's Jewsbury on the right side. Harrington had one of his best games since he's been in Portland on the left side, getting up and down, dealing with DeAndre Yedlin when he would come forward, not allowing him to come forward. So a lot of space in there. An overwhelmingly, for the most part, dominating performance for the Timbers. Seattle did make it interesting in the end, and that was exciting for all of us watching, but it was still, they fell short in the end. They'd lose 5-3 in aggregate. They're now out of the playoffs. There are going to be questions about Ziggy Schmidt. Any thoughts for you guys about Ziggy Schmidt and what happens there for the Sounders?
I mean, you personally have to keep him. I think he's in a building process. They got Clint Dempsey late on the season. He wasn't healthy. He was just getting himself organized in the club. Eddie Johnson with his injuries late there. Obafemi Martin's injuries again. Yep. Lamar Nagel injured or suspended for that last match. I think this is something where you have to give Ziggy to try it early on in the season. You get the team together, organized, and then you go from there. Should it be under pressure early on in the season? For sure. There's a lot of expectations for the Seattle Sounders team with the money that they've spent and the organization that they have, but you do give them a go. I don't think it's a bit too premature to fire him right now.
And I think we have seen a lot of big name, big money DPs come to the league and struggle when they come mid-season, but once they have a full offseason to work into their team. But one guy who has not been struggling at all since he joined MLS is Darlington Nagbe. He had another good game for the Portland Timbers, and our Samantha Yar caught up with him after the game.
Moving on to the Western Conference Finals and to do it in front of your Timbers Army.
We wouldn't want to do it any other place, I feel like beginning of the season there are a lot of questions what we could do as a team, and I feel like we've done well this season, top of the table in the West, and moving on to Western Conference Finals.
And how big a part do you think the strong tactical play that Caleb has instilled in you guys all season, how big a role did that have in this win tonight?
It's huge, I feel like Caleb's tactics and everything gave us a chance on the road when we went to Seattle, and we got a 2-1 result there, and then put us in a good spot to come into this game, and then just trying to attack and keep hold of the lead.
And did you have any idea the result of the RSL LA game when you went at halftime?
At halftime, I think I saw it when I was walking to the locker room, but I don't know what it ended up as.
All right, well, we will see you in Salt Lake City for the Western Conference Final. Congratulations, Darlington.
Thank you.
Having to play against Real Salt Lake. We'll get to that game in a second, what Real Salt Lake ended up pulling off against the LA Galaxy. You hear Nagbe talking about watching a little bit of that game, maybe taking some inspiration from that to see what they can get done there. Darlington Nagbe had a very good first leg, we all thought. A little bit less influential in this game, but you see how important he is for this attack for the Timbers.
I mean, he's one of those 4 or 5 guys who are attacking the Seattle backline. And look, the Portland attack is not working unless all four guys go at once. So, sure, Nagbe has definitely a role in that.
I mean, I totally agree. But what I love most is that you said it best, Greg. He had a great first match, didn't have a great second match, but you know what? They have so much talent and so many players to pick up the slack. So when one player is not doing well, almost like the opposite side of the Seattle Sounders, when Eddie Johnson's not doing well, when Clint Dempsey's not doing well, who's going to pick up the slack for them? They have so many offensive threats that when Nagby didn't perform tonight, they went on the other side of the pitch with Rodney Wallace, and he was a danger all night.
Maybe too rested, Simon. Maybe they gave him too much rest after that first leg. They
gave him a little more rest tonight.
A little more rest in this one. Well, let's take a look now at the bracket and where things stand here. And of course, Portland now up into the Western Conference Championship, where they will be taking on RSL. RSL ending up with a 2-0 victory over the Galaxy. They now go with a 2-1 aggregate into the conference championship again. Now, guys, we look at the two sides of this bracket. Who's looking more powerful right now?
I mean, I think you have to say in the West, Portland looks like they're just overtaking people, and then in the other end, it's Kansas City. So
you're looking now here at a Portland, Kansas City coming together.
They have played the two most impressive soccer, the most impressive soccer we've seen in this latest second leg of any of the teams in the playoffs. So and to see those two styles come together, it'll be fireworks because they both play at high pressure.
For me, I'll have to agree with you in terms of Portland Timbers, but on the other side in the East, I'll honestly have to say it's Houston Dynamo. They beat a very, very good New York side, and they're a playoff team.
But without playing well,
but they know how to win.
I know.
They know how to win. Are you going to take when it comes to
Kansas City
playoffs,
were more impressive in the way they did it.
Fair enough.
All right, well, we'll talk a little bit more about this, but first we want to get to one of the goal scorers for the Portland Timbers, Futty Danso, out at Geldwen with our Samantha Yarrick.
All right, Futty, you are the longest tenured Timber. How important was it to get this win, move on to the Western Conference Finals, and to do it in front of your home crowd?
I mean, it mean a lot for this team, you know. These fans deserve a lot to... I feel like these fans, they definitely deserve something better than just making it to the playoff. So making it to the MLS Cup Finals, I mean, that would be the best thing right now for us. So this win is a big step for us right now.
Your Gambian brother playing some tricks on you.
I know. I mean, he's like this all day. This is what I have to deal with every day.
All right, so now you are unbeaten 16 games at home. What part do you think you've now played, I think, the same 4 in your back line for 8 games? How much of a role does that play in winning?
I mean, I feel like, you know, the chemistry kicked in the last 8-9 games that I have like the same back 4. So definitely coming into this game, like, you know, we know that like the same back 4, we have to do what we've been doing the last 8 games or 9 games. Our goal was to keep a clean sheet. I mean, we didn't have the clean sheet, but, you know, with the win, we can get away with the win, and it feels good.
And that goal, was that just icing on the cake for you?
Pretty much. It's not done yet. So, but that's like, you know, helping. I mean, I've been saying that I haven't scored this year. Like last year also I haven't scored. I scored in reserve game, but I haven't scored in a league game. I mean, fortunately it was this game. So, you know, hopefully, I mean, we'll have more in our tank to score.
Yeah, no better game to do it than tonight, right?
Definitely. Against our rivals in their season. I mean, it is what it is.
All right, well, congratulations. We'll see you at the Western Conference Final.
Thank you very much.
Well, Futty Danso there, one of the goal scorers for the Portland Timbers, and quite a Seattle Sounder killer, Futty Danso. He keeps always wanting to score goals. It gets the head on there.
And who'd he beat on his header? Jimmy Traore.
Making that run out of the midfield.
I mean, Jimmy Traore.
Jimmy Traore, not always the greatest. Now let's move on to the other game. It was the earlier game. It ended up 2-0 for Real Salt Lake, and it was Sebastian Velasquez with the first goal and Chris Schuler with the second goal. The Galaxy kind of huffed and puffed, but really this was the RSL team that we've been expecting, creating more chances for themselves. They got several good chances. They hit the bar several times. They came close. Alvaro Sabarillo up top had some help. I think the most important thing here, guys, and we want to talk about a little bit is, you know, Robbie Finley comes into the lineup, and he helps a lot for them to get all of these chances.
Yeah, he helped pound that Galaxy back line. that, they were bending and bending and bending until then the chances started coming on set pieces. Salt Lake were dangerous all game, and I think this was a weakness that the Galaxy have pointed to all year on set pieces. They finally took advantage with that goal from Chris Schuler. And look, the Galaxy, you said they huffed and puffed. They were wheezing, I think, throughout the game. I didn't see any huffing and puffing. It's amazing to me that Real Salt Lake had this game in them because they contained and nullified, absolutely nullified Donovan and Keane in this one.
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree. It's just a sign of a great coach. Jason Kreis took that responsibility in the first leg and said, you know what? My tactical decisions were not great, and personnel weren't the best either. He came into this match, and the two players that he changed and put Finley up top and Velasquez out wide, they were the decision makers in this match. We have to be honest. And, listen, all respect goes out to Jason Kreis and Real Salt Lake for winning this game.
And look, I saw several tweets out there about Robbie Keane being non-existent in this game. And when is the last time in a big game for the LA Galaxy that Robbie Keane has been frustrated the way he was in this one, considering everything that he has done for the Galaxy this year? People talk about him being an MVP candidate. He couldn't get anywhere. They were surrounding him. They were hounding him when he had the ball. This was great defensive work by RSL on one player in particular.
Stunning. It gives me goosebumps to think of the players tracking back for Real Salt Lake all game. Sebastian Velasquez, who rarely plays 90 minutes, he was huffing and puffing all throughout the game, going up and down. They were tracking back. They had 6 guys in the box. You saw every time Robbie Keane had the ball, immediately, not just the 4 in the back line, another 2, 3 guys helping out there. They were running hard all game, Real Salt Lake. They were dedicated in this one.
The Galaxy ended up with actually 21 shots, only 2 on target in this game. If you can imagine that, the Galaxy misfiring the way they did. Now, there was several controversial moments, and one of them was from a free kick from Javier Morales that bent up and over the defense and over everybody else and into the goal. Now, there was a whistle blown, and for a while there, no one really could figure out what the referee had blown. First, there was an offside. It looks like Nat Borchers is offside when the ball is thrown through, but if you look at the referee, he doesn't come in and put his hand up. The assistant referee never puts up his flag, so it ended up that there was a foul. Schuler grabbing onto Omar Gonzalez is what it all comes down to. You can
grabbing
see
his wrist.
Grabbing his wrist, a wrist lock, if you will, and sort of spinning him around, and the referee comes right in and makes the call. Guys, first of all, it ends up being not as important because RSL wins,
right.
But this was a moment where this game could have changed very, very quickly. RSL could have gotten down. It could have given some momentum to the Galaxy. Corey, first of all, was there a foul on this play?
First of all, he grabbed his pinky. Let's be honest about this. We're talking about one of the strongest players, not even defenders, one of the strongest players in the league, Omar Gonzalez.
Yep.
And you're telling me that's going to hold you back? We're talking about a playoff match, the biggest match, and you're going to call a foul on that? Listen,
It's the least offensive of contacts.
it was by far a terrible call.
And it's, Omar Gonzalez and
6'5".
Chris Schuler,
Exactly.
the big guys, and this big thing is spinning him around,
but listen,
right?
justice was served, a couple free kicks later, and listen, well-deserved goal by Salt Lake.
Now, what it did, though, is that it meant that they ended up 1-0 going into after the regulation time. That meant they had to then go into extra time. Real Salt Lake did. Now, Corey, in the pregame, we talked about how 20 minutes can make a difference for a player in terms of fatigue. Now, RSL have to play 30 minutes extra. They're going to play again on Sunday in the Western Conference Championship first leg. How much does that 30 minutes extra hurt them from a fatigue standpoint?
Simple as, it's going to be too much for Real Salt Lake. I think they've done well up to this point, but I think leading up to the next round, the finals, it's just going to be way too much. Not only because of the extra 30 minutes, because we also saw Saborio laboring when he came off. We saw Velasquez laboring when he came off, and I just think it's going to be way too much. I think they've done particularly well as of now, but going against Portland might be just too much for them.
The Saborio one is the one I'd be most concerned about if I'm a Salt Lake fan, because he didn't look comfortable at all. He had to come out of the game, leave his team with 10 men there at one point. So I think
for the end of the game, for most of the end of the game, they were at 10 men after Saborio comes off for the injury because they were out of subs. Now remember, that game is at 9 p.m. Eastern time on Sunday night. It is on ESPN, regular ESPN, so make sure you catch that out. And it's going to be a good one. It's at Real Salt Lake because they are the lower seed, so Portland Timbers will be the top seed in the Western Conference Championship, so they would get home field advantage. That means they will get the second leg at home. Now, down the stretch in this game, one player comes to mind, Nick Rimando. He had a big couple of moments. There's this one where it's just right off the face. Good save, Nick. That's important to use all parts of your body to make the save. It takes a wicked bounce on the shot from Juninho. He also had a couple of other big saves in this one to keep the Galaxy out. They were huffing and puffing a little bit, maybe wheezing, but they did get a couple of close chances in here. Nick Rimando, again, coming. Where does it come from, Simon?
I just think he just knows how to play, and he's able to react. He's just the ultimate
He is a
reactionary
goalkeeper,
in MLS. Great reflexes. But, you know, if we're mentioning the stalwarts for Real Salt Lake, in addition to Rimando, kudos to Javier Morales. We talked about how he had to have a big game and finally lift this Salt Lake team in one of these elimination games at home, which we were talking all in the lead up. They finally win it at home, but only because he had a great game. I think the final stat was he created 8 chances on goal, and you rarely see that from a playmaker in MLS.
Well, the curse is broken for Real Salt Lake, right? We have seen that they have not gotten it done on home field in the big games, U.S. Open Cup, MLS Cup playoffs, the CONCACAF Champions League. And on the other side, guys, the defending MLS Cup champions are out. We are going to have a new champion again, which is kind of nice, I think. You know, we've had some talk in the office here when we were watching all the games, like, maybe we'd like to see something different. Well, you know what? It's going to happen. The LA Galaxy are no longer going to be able to get up there. Maybe some of the frustration that comes out of it, we saw on Bruce Arena early in the game against Real Salt Lake. He showed us some of his foot skills, and the ball was coming over to. This is a wonderful moment when the ball kind of drops to him, and he just steps out on the field to bring it down. Not the greatest first touch, I will say. Maybe a little bit better than mine. Maybe you're better than yours, Simon?
No.
No?
No.
Nothing?
I would have butt trapped that one.
That one?
Yeah.
Look at that, the face. I'm dying to know what the referee said to him when he turns at the end there with the face. But Bruce Arena with a wonderful touch. Coming out on the field now, we actually did discuss, there is no law or rule about that. It's up to the referee's discretion if there has been a problem. You see the Real Salt Lake bench up in arms about it. But
what the referee ended up doing is a drop ball.
Yep. And so he just drops it and we play on. No big deal in the end. Anyway, Real Salt Lake, they move on now to the conference championship as well, taking on the Portland Timbers. Again, that game is on Sunday night, 9 p.m. Eastern time. It's on ESPN. Before that, the Eastern Conference Championship will be taking place. It's Sporting Kansas City against the Houston Dynamo. The first leg will be in Houston on Saturday afternoon, 2:30 p.m. It's on NBC, the flagship network. Yep. We're going to have a live show for this. Are you in?
Yeah, we've done all so far. Why stop now?
Well, I'm not going to ask for your predictions right now. I'm going to wait for you guys for the live show. But Corey will be there. I will be here. Simon will be here. It's going to be a great afternoon. We will be on at 2 p.m. Eastern time. Hopefully my voice will have recovered by then. Excuse me. And then the game is at 2:30 p.m. Eastern time on NBC. Make sure you check that out and join us for the pregame.
You okay?
I'm fine. We're gonna get through this. Anyway, that's it for our post-game show here. Congratulations to the Portland Timbers and the Real Salt Lake for reaching the conference championship.
See you Saturday. See you then.
That's it for MLSsoccer.com's Playoff Central presented by Samsung Galaxy. For Corey Gibbs, Simon Borg, I'm Greg Lawless signing off. Have a great night. We'll talk to you over the weekend.